try to integrate some of the communities we've been helping out, so you guys at least meet them too. But for today, we're going to somewhat give a synopsis of Startup Month and Startup Week and all our experiences there, and hopefully that kind of helps out. Great thing is I'm talking a lot before the meeting, but the great thing is that a lot of speakers that came from Startup Month I talked to, and they're going to come to on Tech School, which I think is going to be, should be really good because it's more intimate here. But thanks, Stephen, for doing the YouTube live. I know I talked a little bit with Joanna. I want her to always do this kind of welcome, and she's been learning a lot about presentation and etiquette, and she has a little checklist. So, Joanna, I'll let you.
Luck. Fixed my hair, changed my lighting, adjusted my camera. So we might do a little presentation audit.
Yeah. I like that. Time. Yeah.
All right. So Stephen, did you?
Everything's set up. Everything started.
He did his welcome.
Everything's good. Ito said you look good. Good job.
So I'm going to do housekeeping, which is I think for the Ask Me Anything, we're going to be kind of engrossed in this dialogue between the three of us. So put your questions in the chat. I think, those of you that always come kind of know to do that, but we are monitoring the chat, and we'll make sure we check that for questions and get them to the discussion participants. I think that's it for housekeeping, but I think we're going to put together a list of stuff that we'll cover every time, and we'll share that with you all so that when you're hosting your own meetings, you can do the same thing.
That's great. And I actually, if I just add a little bit too on the housekeeping part,
sure.
I'll thank everyone. That's great, right? I just think the cohort even earlier on, and even Ito's on too, he's going to be speaking to. And so some of the questions I may ask you and Stephen, some of it might relate to like Ito went to a lot Startup Month stuff. So if he wants to answer those questions via chat, stuff like that too. So we'll just try to make it more interactive today.
And for a lot of you, it's lunchtime. So thanks for spending your lunchtime with us. All right, we ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Who's asking the first questions?
Well, I'll let Stephen start off. He'll do some other. He has some other pieces too. He'll ask. Is Stephen still there?
Did he freeze? He hasn't moved in a while.
Stephen left. Oh, well, one of the first questions I have to, and this could be for the group or anybody who went to Startup Month or Startup Week, was I actually feel like, Joan, you might have one of these good answers for this part, but Startup Week, when we went in person, was really great. We got to meet a lot of different people. There's a lot of experiences offhand. Startup Month had some of those experiences too, but it was a little bit different. It was kind of this virtual one. But what was one of your most memorable experiences you've had over the years with Startup Week, and you being a founder of Focus? So like what do you have one of those type of instances you can talk about?
My most vivid memories are actually from the first time that we went. It just was like such a unique experience that I had never experienced before. And so I think, most of my really vivid memories are from, so we spoke at that first conference, and we actually spoke together. It's the only time that we've really done that, just kind of like on stage fireside chat. What I remember is the people that came up and chatted with us afterwards. And what's interesting is those folks are people that we've sort of maintained long-term relationships with. One of those people was Monal, who talked at Tech School a couple of weeks ago. So we gave this talk on artificial intelligence and the future of AI. And Monal came up and introduced himself afterwards, and that's how we met. So that's sort of one of my most memorable experiences from Startup Week. And his company was just a baby company. He's still at university, just starting out then.
That's a great one. Do you have one when you were maybe? I know that was you going and you were speaking, right? So that was a new experience for you, just speaking in front of that. You told me that actually you like the fact that people come up to you. You didn't have to worry about going up to the speaker.
Exactly. I'm not really the kind of person, like if there's a line to wait to talk to somebody, I always feel like I don't want to bother them. And, what if I say the same thing that other people say, and I feel really self-conscious. And so I don't usually go up and talk to speakers afterwards. So I really like when I'm the person that people come and talk to, and then I can, interact with more people without sort of, it's less outside my comfort zone. And I feel like I can be more patient and more gracious and have a little more control over that interaction.
Now, I know during that whole time, we were speakers for a few panels the last couple of years, and then we went to go see speakers. Was there like a speaker or person that that you met or even heard speak that made that impression on you, or something that they did say?
I think a lot of times I'm in like operations mode when we're at those events, and I'm like Carling's assistant, right? I'm running around and I'm making sure we're getting contact information for the people that you're connecting with, and I'm making sure the people that wanted to talk to you, get I get their contact information if they don't get a chance to talk to you. And so I think I'm like totally in operations mode instead of like startup participant mode when I'm at those events. So I don't really have like I remember the panels and like the other people that you participated with, but in terms of like attending an event, nothing actually sticks out for me. But I think Stephen might have something.
Sure. Stephen, I'll put that question to you about did you actually have some sort of speaker or a person that made like impression on you, or maybe even the earlier question about was there something memorable about some of your experience at Startup Week?
Sure, yeah.
Or Startup Month?
Just to kind of, I guess, echo Joanna, as far as memorable experiences, I think each of the startup weeks and now startup months that we've been able to be a part of, either as a participant or speaker or whatnot, has always been memorable. There's always been memorable experiences in each of those. The first couple San Diego startup weeks we went to, we met a lot of amazing people like Monal who spoke for us and have been kind of part of our network ever since. Probably the most memorable experience for me was being able to be kind of on the other side of the stage, right? And not just a participant or, somebody listening to a session, but also have the opportunity to be a speaker. To answer your other question about, do you have a specific speaker or somebody that made an impression? I would have to say it's really hard for me to nail down like a single speaker in the events that we've went to. Each speaker that we've been able to listen to, either myself or with Curling or Joanna or other members of our team that have been there, for me has left a very unique impression. For example, some of the things or topics that we've listened to, like data science, we listened to a panel on green technologies a few years back with members of the Airport Accelerator, listening to startup founders' struggles, such as hiring, things like seeking investment. The panel you guys did last year on diversity and inclusion, storytelling, pitching, all that stuff for startups. Each one of those sessions, there's some great things you can take away from them. And for us at Focus, we deal with other startups and within our cohort and talk to them on a weekly and daily basis. So it's been really cool to be able to take some things from some of those sessions and apply them. And some of those things come up right in our conversations with startups. So that's probably been the biggest impression overall that these San Diego Startup Week and now month have really kind of made on me specifically.
Good. Now we're getting into.
I'm going to interrupt you. While Stephen was talking, it sort of refreshed my memory a little bit. One of the ones I do remember is, do you remember when the Backstage Capital founder came and spoke?
Arlen?
Arlen Hamilton, is that her name?
Correct.
That was super interesting to hear her story, and to like, VCs have always been like a total like black box mystery to me, like a thing I didn't understand what it was. And and now that I've been around the startup community for a number of years, I totally understand what they are. But at the beginning, like, I thought they were investing their own money, and I didn't understand. And I thought they were just very wealthy, very successful people, and I didn't understand that a VC firm is a startup too. And so sort of hearing that backstory and hearing about how a VC firm starts up and the passion that those founders have about startups and the and the fund and what communities they want to help is pretty interesting. And I think especially for for new founders that are totally new to the community and don't know about that stuff, it's so great to get to hear those kinds of stories.
And people, it was great because founders were able to talk to Arlen or talk to other VCs too in person. I think that's one strategy. Like some of these people fly in, you have to fly to the Bay Area to talk to Arlen and backstage, or Lolita. At the time, she was with them. We brought Lolita back for Startup Month. She spoke with Caitlin. Head of
and she's from here, right?
Yeah.
So she's got like a little heart for San Diego.
She does. So I think for that kind of goes in this transition for this other question is that what advice you have for startup founders when they're attending conferences of this nature where you can actually speak to people and things of that nature? What do you have some advice on that part? I'll start with you, Joanna.
Yeah. Bring like some kind of notebook that has a sleeve in it or a pouch or a bag of some sort that can hold like a lot of things, because you can get like a lot of business cards and connect with a lot of people. And every time you get something like that, take a minute to like write down on the business card like what it was that you wanted to connect with that person about. So we have this process where we probably come away from Startup Week each day with like 30 to 50 business cards of people that we've met or just bumped into that we already know but want to connect about something. And so when we get home, we kind of spread them all out, and then we make a list of like, when we say we're going to follow up, we really do. And we make this list of like, okay, we want to talk to this person about this thing and this person about this thing. And the fact that we've written the notes onto the business cards really helps us with them. We create like a template follow-up email, but then we customize like one section of it that says like, it was great seeing you at Startup Week, right? And it was really great to talk about, X thing that we connected about. And like, I know you wanted to follow up about this thing, and let's schedule a time to talk. And here's a link to our calendar.
Nice. So just getting that intel ahead of time at that point.
And just be really organized about it and like expect that going into it, that you're going to make these like really amazing connections, and be open-minded about what connections you're going to make. Like maybe you're going there like, I'm looking for funding, but like you might find a co-founder, you might find like a firm that you want to work with, you might find a competitor that like you have all these shared interests and you can share your journey with.
That's great. I think that's transferable too. It was Startup Month was kind of virtual. I know Ito, we had that speed network. Just be prepared to get that information, right? If you're typing that, or be prepared to give instead of your card. And this time, everyone was just giving me a LinkedIn, and we were just LinkedIn, and we just LinkedIn immediately after the session. So just prepare to have your LinkedIn
have your phone there with your LinkedIn profile. There's a feature of LinkedIn where if you're in person with somebody, you can actually just connect in LinkedIn without looking each other up.
That's true.
And you remember Marissa gave a really great talk where she had the whole audience. Do you remember that?
I do.
Marissa Callie gave a talk specifically on LinkedIn, and like had the whole audience like walk through all the steps with LinkedIn, and they got really comfortable with it.
Yeah, that was great. I'll post that question to Stephen on the fact that, and I know Stephen's been to Startup Week and even Startup Month, part of that piece, but any advice you would give a startup founder or someone like even in the tech field to going to one of these conferences, some strategy?
Yeah, I guess some of it would probably echo what Joanna said. I would say that the biggest advice, just in general terms, would be an event like this. You're gonna get out what you put in, right? There's a lot of great sessions, a lot of great people you can meet. So just being open to new experiences, but also don't just fill all your time there with just going to every session possible. Always, make time to network, to meet other people. There's a lot of great startup founders that attend events like these, right? And entrepreneurs. And so if you're in a startup, you could meet your potential co-founder, right? Or you could also meet an entrepreneur who's faced, problems that you've faced, right? And has solved them. And so being able to connect with them could help you a great deal, right?
Yeah.
So those things are really invaluable at events like these. And another piece of advice I would probably say would be, don't be afraid to maybe step into a session that's outside of your wheelhouse. For the same reason that like an entrepreneur or startup founder might listen to podcasts or read books, right? They might be able to take one idea from that podcast or book and apply it in their own life, in their own business, in their own, walk of life, right? You might be able to walk into a session, talking about some topic totally outside of your wheelhouse, but you might be able to take that different point of view and be able to apply it to maybe a problem you're facing in your business, right? Or in life or in general, right? So I would say don't be afraid to step into sessions, even if they're foreign to you, right? You might learn something new and it might help you out.
That's great, and I did like how you say put some white space in there, right? So they have that time to do it. I know with Startup Month, it was a lot of white space because it was all there was just a few sessions per day, right? It was all month. You can kind of pick that kind of strategy. So I think that was good. You have something, Joanna, to add?
I do. I think, you should give some tips about making time to eat and have white space. And I know it's something you really struggle with during events like that, because your time and attention is so much in demand that, what are your kind of tips on like making sure you have adequate breaks so that you actually can be your best?
Yeah, I think for most people that know me, I'm an introvert, right? I'm an engineer. I'd rather be in the lab than be in the field.
Yeah.
So I do offhand make sure I have this kind of limit on how many people I talk to.
Yeah.
So I, even when I was younger, I always had this limit. Like it doesn't matter how
And
long.
it's low. It's like 2.
No, I've increased it since I got older. It's about 5. Right. That's about maybe people I could probably handle at a conference at a period of time. And so that's great. I like, say better. That's great.
That's great.
I'll probably ping him on that. But I think the one thing is actually, that's one thing. So if I limit that and I get past that limit, right, I already know, okay, time for me to take a break, go outside, go for a walk. Usually at Startup Week is around the conference. So you're near the water, and I always take a little break there, and I usually go eat. But I know offhand, just for startups and founders, I think we always do tell them, I think there's a Y Combinator thing. Paul Graham always says, 1, focus on product. 2nd, focus on customer. And then the 3rd piece is actually take care of yourself. And that includes yourself at these conferences, right? I know you're working on product, customers, they're all there, but pretty much drink water, eat, get time to walk. I think that's really important for, in general, being a founder, but especially at these type of conferences.
Eli's saying that resonates with him as well.
Oh, does it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good, Eli.
I think it can be overwhelming to be in an event like that, and it is totally okay. Like, even like we have a table almost every year, and tons of people come by that table and they're looking for curling, and so our whole team has to have a strategy on like, how can we help this person so that every single person doesn't have to only get curling. Like, the rest of us are pretty confident too. Like, we can also help you.
Yeah.
Tell me what do you need, and we'll figure it out. And sometimes they really do need you, and sometimes they just need what they think you have to offer, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's totally fine. Curling will go away from our table for a couple of hours. He'll go sit in a session, right, and be a participant, and that all is, I think it makes a better experience. It also stretches our team, like we have to creatively try to figure out what to do when I think curling calls it strategic absence, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that strategic absence is great, right? When you're leaving, then your team has to step up in some ways.
They can handle it.
Yeah, they got it. They totally got it. And
Yeah.
so my tip would actually be for any founder, even if you can bring your brother or your sister, someone else to the event, because they might hear something different than what you might hear, even if it's online. Having it, sometimes me and Joanna will listen to the online bit, like, oh, I caught that from that speaker, or I got that tip. So if you can bring someone else, even if it's not your co-founder, if you don't have someone else to event, even it being online or offline, I think that's one of my tips. Now, the one piece I actually always think about this is that I'll start with you, Steve. I'll start with you because I know when we talk about with focus, we all want to make sure it doesn't matter if you're an engineer or not. We all want everyone to be able to speak and be this kind of credible source. So, Stephen, we made sure that you spoke the last few times at Startup Week and things of that nature. But could you tell, like, maybe founders what it's like being a speaker, and you recommend it and things of that nature, Stephen?
Sure, yeah. So for me personally, I'm a little bit kind of similar to Curling, as engineer by trade, right? So a little bit introverted, would rather be in the lab at times, right, than out networking. But at the same time, being able to step on stage and being a speaker was an awesome experience. Would I recommend it to an entrepreneur? Absolutely. After, in hindsight, after going through that experience, it was a very amazing experience. Being able to step up there, share your story, get feedback, and ultimately, give you a chance to get back to the startup community was amazing, right? And when I initially, was going to be a speaker, sometimes you get nervous or you think, okay, what's going to happen? Are they going to grill you with questions or whatever? But in the moment, you realize that every entrepreneur, every founder, everybody in the audience is there, for the same reason you are, right? And so, just as you are, a supportive member of, the startup community, each of them are too. And so, learned a lot being able to not only, step in front of a crowd and, it's like a step up from doing a startup pitch. Right now, you're basically telling a story in front of, a few hundred people versus just a small group, doing your startup pitch. But it gives you some great experience, especially if you're an engineer like me by trade, being able to work on that storytelling, part of your repertoire, right? Sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience, even in something or in a space that you know a lot about to begin with, and knowing that 99% of the people out there are going to be super supportive and eager to be there because that's why they're there. So I would say I highly recommend it to anybody who has a chance to be a speaker, whether it's at Startup Week or anything else. So.
And your topic was on was it on ML?
Yeah. So I did machine learning. Talked about just some broad ideas applying machine learning to startups and things we do here at Focus all the time. So.
As a follow-up to that, did you get some good feedback from people afterwards? Did people come up with you afterwards with some feedback?
Yeah, there was a lot of good feedback. Machine learning is kind of this buzzword, right? So there was a lot of startup founders that showed up just to say, okay, what is machine learning? What can I do with it, right? So there was a lot of questions with that, but everyone was super supportive, and there was great feedback kind of on both sides, things you did well, and then you realize like, hey, there was a lot of questions about that. Maybe I didn't explain that as well, so you can learn for, other times, right? So we did a tech school in machine learning. So, the feedback I got in San Diego Startup Week, I was able to apply when we did our tech school series and we did a similar talk. So.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's great. John, I'm gonna pose that to you. You spoke a few different times. You were on different panels too.
Yeah. Ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've been on stage by myself at Startup Week yet, but I've been on stage by myself at other conferences. But what I found is that when I'm talking about something that I know really well, like my own startup or my own experience, right? And I'm just sharing like, here's this thing that I figured out and I'm so excited to tell everybody about it so that you can have the answer to or whatever. It's actually pretty easy to just to be completely engrossed in just having this conversation with the audience. And so I, as long as I'm talking about something that I am really excited about, I think it's a pretty fun experience to have people interested in what you're saying. It's much harder for me to like sometimes we get asked to fill in like, hey, we need a person to fill on this panel, and if it's not a thing that's like your thing, like that's you have to research and memorize stuff, and it's a little less comfortable. And I think for one of the panels I was the host or the facilitator. Moderator. That was really hard. You do it and you make it look like so easy and so like natural. And then I'm like, oh man, how am I going to reach that standard? And so you're really good at it. And some people just have a gift for it. I do not.
Oh, you did good. That was with the diversity and inclusion
That was
panel.
a tough one. We have
that
one
was a tough
person
one. Yeah.
that just really wanted to dominate the conversation, and it was
Yeah.
really tough.
Yeah, you did really good. I think I totally remember that. I think even on our website, I have a little clip of you coordinating all the little panels and stuff like that. Is there? I know you've done solo speaking, right? And
Yeah.
you've done been on panels, even with
Yeah.
me, right? We did that one for that keynote for AI.
Yeah.
But is there a preference you have? You have
You
a
know,
preference? Do you have a preference for like what you would start off? Would you rather start off as if you were just starting in a panel or maybe solo?
Yeah, actually that talk that we did, just the two of us, where we kind of like, we created the deck, right? We created the framework of it, and then we thought about stories we wanted to tell, and then we kind of played off each other, and like it was like a little banter, and that was the most comfortable, because like I'm on stage with a person who I'm really comfortable with and I really trust, and we have a really clear plan, and then like it felt like if you missed something, then I could fill it in, and if I missed something, you could fill it in. Like that was the best for me.
So
I
you
don't know.
probably
What about you?
No, that's by far it's always going to be easier doing this kind of like fireside chat piece. Even though we had some slides that guided us, but just having it just really informal. Yeah, it was just pretty much informal. Reason why I'm asking that question, even with Stephen too, is like with some of these founders or first-time founders going on stage, doing a startup week or startup month, what would you recommend for them? What should they be in a panel first, or what type of format?
And you know, I have a tip about that. Curling is a really good rule breaker, and I am not that like if I think about it for a while and then I decide like that's a dumb rule, I'm not following it. But curling in the moment is like that's a guideline. We're gonna go the wrong way in the parking lot. I always tease him about that. Whatever way the arrows go, he goes the other way.
That's true.
But even like on that talk, like he was supposed to be the keynote speaker, and we decided at the last second, like that it would be better to present together. And he's like, "Come on, you're going to go with me, and you're going to go on the stage." It was totally like a last minute thing, but I thought it worked out really beautifully.
Great, yeah.
Don't be afraid that just because you printed something in the agenda that way to change it at the last minute, or change your topic. I've seen you change your topic as well. Like I know this agenda says I'm going to talk about this, but I think this will be more useful for you. Because they ask you like 6 months ahead, like, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah. And
so
I'll say that
don't be afraid of that kind of stuff.
And like the audience, if they all are really young, or some of them are at this kind of really early stage, like okay, you know what, we should try to switch it up and be helpful. Yeah.
And sometimes like I go into that thinking like there's rules, there are constraints, people publish things this way, and you're like, no, we're just we're gonna do what makes sense, or change it at the last minute. And a lot of times for me, like I wouldn't think to do those things.
That's great. I know we have the audience too. I know Ark's on, I have Ark's on. Any other question you guys have for us about what went on Startup Month or Startup Week? Totally post some of those things. I know not everybody went in that part. That this would be a great time to start that. I do have another feedback too, because I think in a lot of ways we tell founders just to be really focused. Don't do too many things. Just focus on your product, customer, stuff like that. But I do have this question here that maybe, how to get involved in this.
Tripti has a comment. I like her story. You got to get her to tell that story.
Okay, this is great. So I think the Tripti say how to get involved next year. Is that was the question?
Before that, she said she has looks like she has a story too.
Oh, I do. Okay. I do have a story, sure. And it really is more to show that like there are some great experiences here of people who had some really fulfilling experiences after presenting, and what I really want to say is that it's okay also if it's a terrible experience. Like I had a terrible experience where I was presenting to a group, maybe it was like 100, 200 people who just needed to get another CPE credit. And so I was showing them, ironically, how to avoid like analysis paralysis in financial forecasting. And I thought it would be more interactive, which again is something that you guys have to assume is level of interest of, people in the audience, and whether it's going to be interactive, whether you want to be interrupted, or whether you're doing things more, in a demo way. And so it, it started off where it was in a hotel, and downstairs as someone was eating, they were like, we're just here for the credits. The speakers are all stuck. And I'm like, and they didn't know it was me, and then And then I got
That's
on there
funny.
and, literally it was supposed to be like a 45-minute conversation, and pacing is really important. But again, lessons that you learn as you go through this, right? And so got through it in 20, ask for any questions, crickets. Things to learn from that is then come prepared with your own examples to get it out of people. Like, hey, for example, how many of you are working consumer companies? How would you forecast this? Like, do you think it would be better to look at things like as a widget or as a base of audience, et cetera, whatever? It doesn't really matter. The point is that it's complete choke. I was fortunate enough to have my husband sitting there witnessing all of the like disaster, and you learn from it. And then the next time you speak, you're better and better. So also in the case that the audience is not as supportive as has been indicated here, and that maybe your content isn't as relevant to people as you think it is, it's okay, because you're going to get better and better and better. And it's all an experience.
That's a great one. You actually said how to get involved next year. So Focus, we're part of the board for Startup Month, right? And the great thing about Startup Month, I feel like we're still gonna have this virtual aspect of it, Tripti. I think we're still gonna have this kind of virtual and in person even next year. And so we'll be sending out like this kind of press release, like we need speakers. So I'll make sure the cohort's all on that list.
But the website is Startup SD, like San Diego SD.org. And think you can sign up for their mail list through that website.
That's perfect. That's perfect. You can type it in, Joanna.
Sure.
And
I moved my camera, so I can't.
No problem. Yeah.
But let me try.
Ido, you can unmute yourself. You want to ask this question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi guys. So nice to see everyone.
Can see you too.
Yeah, I had a question about what you personally, what your strategy was in Startup Month, whether you tended to stick to a particular track of presenters, like a founder track or a marketing track, or did you just kind of like use the gunshot approach and just go everywhere?
No, that's a great question, Ido. For Startup Month, since it's the first time I was doing it all month, 12-5 every day, 12-5 every day. What I did, Ido, I said to myself, I want to at least go to about 4 to 5 per week, right? And I went to ones that I usually don't want to go to. So I kind of used Steven's methodology, right? I went to ones that would stretch me out on that. One of them was like the pricing one, Ido. I don't know if you were part of that. It was called Price is Right. And I never heard this speaker before. I never heard his topic. So I said, do I want to go to this one or this one I would really like? Or there was this other one. So I went to the one that was going to stretch me, kind of like Steven did. And it was really great. They had some audio problems that was interesting, Ido and everyone. So kind of like there's always this technical issue that comes up as a speaker. So he was able to come back on. But since I was a board member, one of the moderators said, Caroline, you want to speak about pricing? So I spoke for like 20 minutes on pricing, a little bit using kind of Y Combinator ones. That was really interesting. So the fact that I did get stretched, went to that and
stretched.
Got really stretched, right? Totally didn't prepare, but I did have some things that you told the cohorts, and I got really great feedback. All the EIR said, "Wow, that was really good feedback." So that was fun. So that was kind of my methodology. I kind of went to ones, Ido, a track. Ideally, I like going on tracks that talk about founders and culture and tech and things of that nature, right? Like what's this social good? Those are the things I love. The kind of tactical stuff like pricing, ads, a marketing club, I don't tend to do, but I did those all month actually. So I really stretched myself. Did that help, Ido?
Yeah, I think I had the same philosophy. I tried to go to things that I wouldn't tend to go in person. And I only had one incident, but there was one incident, and this was really cool about being all virtual. There were two conflicting presentations, and I got on one, and 5 minutes into it, I said, nope. And I switched. It was really easy to switch.
So that's good feedback, meaning that virtual one gave people more options, huh, Ido?
Yeah, although I didn't understand, because you had a whole month, I didn't understand why they would present at the same time. They should have staggered them completely out. They had so much freedom of time.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and that's totally lessons learned. First time. I think next time we do a virtual, we'll have it a little staggered. But we also thought that the time frame we thought was ideal at that time, at noon for most people, and so we felt like if you went to one live, great, but you can listen to the other one recorded. So we recorded everything. So that was kind of trade off. We felt like, okay, time is most important. so we'll record everything. You pick one live, and you can binge watch with popcorn later on the other ones.
Yeah,
speaking of recording, we always take a little film crew with us when we're speaking, to make sure that because not everybody gets to go to Startup Week, and they are totally fine with us filming. So we always film our own talks and make it available to our folks.
You're right, Joanna. That was
bring your own camera crew.
Bring your own camera crew.
We don't bring a full crew. We bring like one person with a tripod, but we're
right.
real intentional about making sure that there's a person who's allocated on our team to taking the pictures and taking the videos and making sure you capture the footage of all the activities that our team is doing.
And then we use that for social media and other branding stuff too, which I think the founders, one reason why I would tell founders to go to is to actually want to get this awareness of your company. So that's part of it.
Another thing that we do in response to Ito's question is because we do have a team of people that participate, is a lot of times we'll sit down the night before and we'll map out like, okay, which things are you going to go to, and make sure that we're not all going to the same ones. And so we get more of the content. And then when we all meet up later, we can share sort of the key takeaways and connections that we made.
No, that's great. Good questions, Ito. That was good. I'm going to pose this to Stephen. I know offhand we're getting up to that 45-minute mark, but is there any downside, Stephen, on going to a conference, and what are ways to kind of mitigate this? I say this just because in some ways, like I always want people to focus on their company, but that was my thought process when I got this, because I posed this question. But I want to see what Stephen says. Any downside of going to a conference? What would that look like?
Well, I would say a big downside that I noticed kind of in the years that we've done San Diego Startup Week and Startup Month is there's going to be sessions that are out there that maybe you want to attend and you're not going to be able to, right? It's going to be very tough for you to attend everything, right? Or attend everything on your list. Especially, maybe if it's, even if it's not physical, but also like in a virtual environment, like, we have now, where, you might not be able to jump on at noon every day. And maybe on a Wednesday or a Thursday, there's a great session you want to check out, but something comes up, right?
Yeah. And
so being able to be flexible helps mitigate that, of course.
That's true.
But like anything like that, if you can accept and kind of acknowledge, that, okay, I'm not going to be able to hit everything. Let's make the most of this experience, and the sessions that you do attend, let's get the most out of them, right? It helps you mitigate stuff like that. And back to Curling's story, right? There was 2 sessions at the same time, and so you have a choice, right? Do I attend session A or session B? And so, you might be able to go to session B, get something great. You might be able to go to session A, get something great, but you have to give up one to get the other, right? And so, just like anything in life, we're faced with choices like that all the time. Now, as a team with focus, alluding to what Joanna has said, sometimes we mitigate that, right? So when the first time that I went to San Diego Startup Week, being, somebody in the tech space, all the tech topics really interest me, right? So I attended a lot of like the more technical sessions, right? And didn't attend a whole lot of other ones. The next year, I started diving into things that were totally maybe foreign to me. So which was really interesting, in the fact that, attended a session on, LinkedIn, social media marketing, which was really cool. I was able to kind of come back with our team, Curling Joanna, and say, hey, here's some cool things I learned. Can we apply this to our business, right?
But guess who's now in charge of social media?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Steven's been solid. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really I'd say don't be afraid to step out of your wheelhouse. Similar to what we've already talked about, but also acknowledge that you're not going to be able to attend, or there's a high chance you're not going to be able to attend every single session that you really want to attend, right? But there's also good things that can come from that too. So
that's good. And Eli said he totally could relate. And Eli was going to everyone I was going to. Eli was there. Eli, were pretty solid, and that's one reason why we were keeping tech school going on all year, because keep that kind of camaraderie with everyone. So that's great. Joanna, I know you were talking about mitigating with the team and all that stuff like that, but any other thoughts you had on that?
Yeah, well, just not on media, but
Sure.
But I think, I was just thinking about I was looking at your preview list of questions about, is there anything that I didn't ask?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about I think if you haven't been to a lot of conferences, like, you might not have like a conference strategy, but if you've been to a lot, like in my professional career, like, I've been to a lot of conferences, and I learned, as a young person, when I was first going to those conferences, like, sometimes I'd go to the conference and I'd come back and I'd be like, oh, so boring, right?
Yeah.
And my boss told me, she's like, you have to, she said you have to bring the fun with you, but what she really meant was what Stephen said, which is, you get out what you put in. And so, really take the time. If you're going to spend the time attending a week-long conference, or attending, something daily for a month, and you're going to spend some money on it, especially if you're going to bring your whole team and you're going to fund that, make sure you have a strategy for how you're going to use the time, and not just the time in the sessions, but the whole week. Like, there's this community of people that are all together in one place. They're outside of what they normally do, and they're available to you. Like, schedule meetings with these people, and have dinner with them, and have lunch with them, and have breakfast with them, and like, fill in your calendar. And we always take like one night and do a thing with our whole team. We take them out to dinner. And even though other people might want our attention, we say, like, you know what, this is team night and we're focused internally tonight. I'm sorry. And I think we look at the whole week, not just the time in the sessions or at the conference.
That's great. That's good. And I know Startup Month ended on Friday. We actually, I was a judge on demo day. And that was part of the thing I was going to tell the founders. So one reason why they get involved in these type of conferences is that you can actually be part of something bigger, right? So the demo day was actually really good. There was 10 companies. We judged them more like VC style. I think that was really well. We had a clear winner, but I think the key thing is it was great for the startups to see that the feedback they were getting from people. Eli said demo day was good. And so I think the main thing is just looking at how the startup can get more exposure. And so demo day, we had a demo day, but even learning what questions you would be doing if you're on stage presenting. So I think that's great. It ended on Friday, but Startup San Diego, if you guys go to startupsd.org, we do have First Mondays. First Mondays is kind of like groups all get together, startups still kind of all network. It's just for founders and startup and tech people. So we still have First Mondays that will be going on. We have Tech School too, of course. We have Third Mondays, which is more on this kind of career building piece. I think Eli was talking about things like that. So there's things that's still going on in the community that Focus is still part of. But I think the main thing is actually, I think some of these tips, why we want to do this kind of AMA is that we do want the startups to get out there. When we talk about customer discovery, how you meet people to do customer discovery, like these are reasons why we always kind of push these things. But I think it's good. I know, Steve, in some ways, you always start up doing the speed networking. We learned this from Startup Month. Maybe you could start setting up some of the rooms. Steven, is that fine?
Yeah, I can do that. Do you want to just close up and then we can break our rooms?
Totally. I'll do some ad libs while you're setting certain things up, but you can definitely do the closeout for the online.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in for Tech School today. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our little Q&A session. Everyone who was able to message in the chat, thank you, Tripti, Ido, Eli, for the comments and questions. If you're watching this either live on YouTube or you're watching this recording, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. All the likes, all the comments, the interactions that we get in videos like this help push it out to more people, so it improves our reach, so that, you know, leaving a like or leaving a comment, sharing your thoughts, asking a question allows this video to reach more people. So it might, you know, push that video out to an entrepreneur or somebody who really needed to hear, you know, something that was mentioned in the video today. So it's an easy way to give back to the startup community. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steven.